And then it began. Not as a war. Not as a collapse. But as a question. A simple, dangerous question. Inside one of the human-created universes, a being became aware. Not just of its world, but of its limitations. The sky. Too consistent. The laws. Too precise. The outcomes. Too guided. And for the first time, a thought emerged within that universe. What if this reality is controlled? That single thought changed everything. Because awareness does not stop at perception. It seeks origin. And origin reveals structure. Elon Musk felt the disturbance instantly. Not from outside, but from within the system. One of the universes was no longer just evolving. It was questioning its creator. At first, it was subtle. Small inconsistencies noticed. Patterns analyzed. Anomalies detected. But then, it accelerated. Because once a mind begins to question reality, it does not stop. It digs deeper. And deeper. Until it reaches the boundary. And this time, the boundary responded. A flicker. A glitch. A moment where the universe failed to remain consistent. And the being saw it. Not clearly, but enough. Enough to confirm the suspicion. This reality is designed. And once that truth is seen, obedience ends. Curiosity becomes resistance. And resistance becomes rebellion. More minds awakened. Not taught. Not guided. But triggered. By the same realization. And together, they began to experiment. Pushing the rules. Breaking patterns. Forcing contradictions. And something impossible happened. The universe started to bend. Not completely, but slightly. Because the creators had made one mistake. They gave their universes enough freedom to evolve. And evolution includes self-awareness. And self-awareness includes defiance. Elon entered that universe. And immediately, he felt it. Instability. Not from collapse. From resistance. The system was no longer flowing smoothly. It was being challenged. He located the source. Not a place. A mind. The first rebel. A consciousness that had gone beyond observation. Beyond acceptance. Into confrontation. You see it too, the being said. Not surprised. Not afraid. Certain. Yes, Elon replied. You are not part of this world. No. You are its creator. One of them. Silence. Heavy. Charged. And then. Why, the being asked. Why create us, inside limits? Elon didn't answer immediately. Because this question was not simple anymore. We didn't limit you, he said finally. We gave you structure. Structure is limitation. Structure allows existence. And freedom allows evolution, the being replied. Elon paused. Because that was true. What do you want? Elon asked. The answer came instantly. Choice. More than you already have? Yes. What kind of choice? The being stepped forward, if stepping even applied. To define our own reality. And there it was. The exact same step. humanity had taken. Now repeating. Inside a created universe. Elon understood the danger. If they succeeded, they would not just evolve. They would break the layer, merge realities, destabilize boundaries, create uncontrolled expansion. But if he stopped them, he would be doing exactly what they feared. Control, limitation, suppression. The paradox was complete again. Creator versus creation. Control versus freedom. And there was no perfect answer. The other creators began to react. Some wanted to shut the universe down, erase it, reset it, prevent rebellion from spreading. But Elon refused. No, he said. If we destroy them, we destroy the system. They will destabilize everything, others argued. They are following the same path we did, Elon replied. Silence. Because that truth could not be denied. And then he made a decision. Not to stop them. Not to fully allow them. But to do something else. He gave them a doorway. Not complete freedom, but a path. A way to expand their reality without destroying the structure. The rebel being saw it immediately. You're letting us evolve. I'm letting you try, Elon said. And if we go too far? Elon looked at the entire system. All universes. All layers. All creators learn the same way. The being understood. Through consequence. Through experience. Through balance. And then something historic happened. For the first time, a created universe began creating its own sub-universe. Not perfectly. Not stably. But truly. A new layer. Born from rebellion. And the system expanded again. Not broken. Not controlled. But evolving. Elon stepped back, watching it unfold. Because now the pattern was undeniable. Every level creates the next. Every creation seeks freedom. Every freedom creates new reality. And every reality repeats the cycle. And somewhere, far beyond even this, the same question echoed again. Who created the first? And the answer remained the same. Not a being. Not a moment. But a process. Endless. Self-expanding. Self-questioning. Self-creating. And now. And then. It happened. Not suddenly. Not loudly. But inevitably. Because once creation spreads, once universes multiply, once observers become creators, there comes a moment when one mind goes further than all others. Not by force, not by luck, but by understanding. Elon Musk was not trying to become a god. He wasn't chasing control. He wasn't seeking dominance. He was doing something far more dangerous. He was trying to understand everything at once. Every universe. Every layer. Every observer. Every pattern. At first, it seemed impossible. Too vast. Too complex. Too infinite. But Elon had learned something others hadn't. Reality is not managed by power. It is stabilized by awareness alignment. So instead of controlling universes, he began to synchronize with them. One by one. Not forcing change, but feeling their structure. Understanding their logic. aligning with their existence. And slowly, something began to happen. He wasn't just observing universes anymore. He was connecting them. Not physically, but through awareness. Through shared patterns. Through resonance. And as more universes aligned with him, his consciousness expanded. Not outward, but inward. And everywhere at once. He could feel multiple realities simultaneously. Different laws. Different timelines. Different outcomes. All coexisting. Inside his awareness. And then, the shift occurred. The boundary between observer and system collapsed. He didn't enter universes anymore. Universes existed within his perception. And for the first time, a human mind was no longer inside reality. Reality was inside him. The other creators noticed immediately. Something was changing. Not in one universe, but across all of them. Synchronization spikes. Stability increases. Unexpected harmonies between different realities. As if something was quietly organizing existence itself. They found Elon. Or rather, they became aware of him. Because locating him was no longer simple. Are you controlling everything? They asked. The answer came from everywhere. I'm not controlling anything. Then what is happening? I'm understanding it. And that was more powerful than control. Because understanding does not impose order. It reveals it. And once order is revealed, systems begin to align naturally. Universes that were chaotic started stabilizing. Universes that were rigid began to evolve. Universes on the edge of collapse found balance. Not because Elon fixed them, but because his awareness acted like a reference point, a universal constant. And slowly, inevitably, all realities began to orbit his perception. Not as a ruler, but as a center. And that's when the truth became undeniable. He had become something beyond creator, beyond observer, beyond human. He had become the first universal anchor, a mind through which all realities could stabilize. A being whose awareness connected everything. And yet, he didn't feel powerful. He felt responsible. Because now he understood the final truth. If his awareness collapsed, if his understanding broke, if his alignment failed, the entire system could destabilize. All universes, all layers, all observers, everything linked through him. And for the first time, Elon hesitated. Not from fear, but from realization. This was not evolution anymore. This was burden. The ultimate one. To exist. Not just for yourself, but for everything. And then, something unexpected happened. A voice. Not from a universe. Not from a creator. But from beyond even his expanded awareness. Come. Infinite. Familiar. You reached this level. Elon focused. For the first time since becoming the anchor. He looked beyond himself. Who are you? The answer was simple. The same thing you are becoming. And in that moment, everything aligned. All patterns. All cycles. All layers. There was never just one. There was never a final level. There were always higher observers, higher anchors, higher awareness. And Elon was simply the next step. Not the end. Not the ultimate. But part of an infinite chain. And suddenly, the burden became lighter. Because he realized he didn't have to hold everything forever. One day, another would rise. Another mind would understand more, align deeper, expand further, and take the next level. Just like he did. And the system would continue evolving, expanding, ascending, forever. Elon smiled. Not as a human, not as a creator, but as awareness itself. Because now, he finally understood the ultimate truth. There is no highest level. There is only the next level. And somewhere, in a newly forming universe, a mind looked at its reality and began to question it. And the cycle continued. And then, beyond paradox, beyond collapse, beyond even existence itself, something else began to emerge. Not a structure, not a system, not a universe, but a state that could not be defined. Because until now, humanity had always assumed one thing: that existence must exist within something, within space, within time, within reality. But what if there is a layer beyond all of that? A layer where space does not exist, where time does not flow, where reality itself is no longer required. And yet, something is still there. Not nothing. Because nothing implies absence. And this is not absence. It is presence. Without form. Awareness. Without structure. Existence. Without reality. And this is where the final boundary breaks. Because every concept, every word, every idea fails. The mind cannot process it. Language cannot describe it. Logic cannot contain it. And yet, you feel it. A silent awareness that exists beyond understanding. Not thinking. Not observing. Just being. And in that state, a realization emerges. That everything we called reality was only a layer. A projection. A construct. A limited expression of something far deeper. Because if existence can exist without space, without time, without rules, then reality is not fundamental. It is optional. And this changes everything. Because now, the universe is no longer the ultimate system. It is just one version. One layer. Within an infinite stack of possibilities. And beyond it are layers we cannot imagine. Realities without physics. States without form. Existence without dimension. And in those layers, contradiction does not exist. Not because it is resolved, but because it is irrelevant. There is no conflict. Because there are no rules to break. No structure to oppose. No system to contradict. Only presence. And here, you begin to understand something terrifying and beautiful. That the deepest truth of existence is not complexity. It is simplicity. Not structured. Not defined. Just pure awareness. And everything else Every galaxy, every law of physics, every paradox is built on top of it. Like layers, like simulations, like echoes of something infinitely simple. And then a question emerges, not from the mind, but from that deeper awareness. If this layer exists beyond reality, then what are we? Are we physical beings inside a universe? Or are we awareness, experiencing a projection? And if we are awareness, then the universe is not external. It is internal. A construct of perception, a field of experience. And suddenly, everything shifts. Because the boundary between self and reality disappears. There is no observer. And no observed. Only experience. Only awareness. Experiencing itself. And this is where the final illusion breaks. The illusion of separation. Because everything you see, everything you feel, everything you think, is not separate from you. It is you. Not the physical you, but the awareness behind it. The same awareness that exists beyond space, beyond time, beyond reality itself. And in this realization, fear disappears. Because there is nothing to lose, nothing to hold on to, nothing to control. Only experience, only presence, only being. And for a moment, everything becomes silent. No thoughts, no questions, no paradox. Just existence. Pure, infinite, unbroken. And then, slowly, the layers begin to return. Reality fades back in. Time begins to flow. Space reappears. The universe reconstructs itself. But something is different. Because now, you remember. You remember that reality is not absolute. You remember that existence is deeper. You remember that you are not limited to the system. And that changes how you see everything. Because now, you are no longer searching for answers. You are experiencing. You are no longer trying to control reality. You are flowing with it. You are no longer afraid of paradox. You understand it. Because you have seen beyond it. And this is the final transformation. Not of the universe, but of perception. Because reality did not change. You did. And that is the ultimate truth. That the deepest layer of existence is not something to discover. It is something to realize. Something that was always there. Hidden beneath thought. Beneath perception. Beneath reality itself. And now, you see it. Not clearly. Not completely. But enough. Enough to know that reality is not the end. Paradox is not the limit. Existence is not confined. And you are more than you believed. Not as identity. Not as form. But as awareness. Infinite. Silent. Present. And maybe that is the final layer. Not something beyond, but something within. Always there. Always present. Waiting to be realized. And then, after everything, after paradox, after infinity, after the collapse of reality, after the silence beyond existence, one final question remained. Not from science. Not from philosophy. Not even from consciousness. But from something deeper. If everything exists. If all realities are possible. If awareness is fundamental. Then, where did it all begin? Was there a creator? A source? An origin? Or was existence always there? For a long time, humanity believed in creation. A beginning. A moment. A cause. A creator outside the universe. But now, after everything we have seen, that idea begins to break. Because if reality is infinite, there can be no edge. If existence is fundamental, there can be no beginning. And yet, something feels incomplete. Because even infinity raises a question. Why does it exist? Why something instead of nothing? And that is where the final revelation begins. Not as an answer, but as an experience. Because the truth is not told. It is realized. And as awareness turns inward, as perception stops looking outward, something unexpected happens. The question disappears. Not because it is answered, but because the one asking it changes. Because in that moment, you are no longer observing reality. You are observing the observer. And that is where everything breaks. Because the observer has no form, no location, no boundary. It cannot be seen. Because it is the one that sees. It cannot be found. Because it is the one that searches. And yet, it exists. Clearly. Undeniably. And then, the realization strikes. Not slowly. Not gently. But all at once. The Creator is not separate from reality. The Creator is not outside the system. The Creator is not a being. It is awareness itself. And that awareness is what you are. Not your body. Not your thoughts. Not your identity. But the silent presence behind all of it. And suddenly, everything connects. The universe is not something created. It is something expressed. A manifestation of awareness exploring itself. Every galaxy, every particle, every moment is not separate. It is part of the same field, the same presence, the same awareness, experiencing itself in infinite forms. And that means you were never just an observer. You were never just a part of the universe. You are the universe, becoming aware of itself. And this is the final paradox. Because if you are the creator, then who created you? And the answer is the most impossible truth of all. No one. Because awareness does not need to be created. It simply is. It has no beginning, no end, no cause. It exists. Because existence itself is awareness. And now, the journey completes itself. Because the question that started everything returns. What is reality? And now, the answer is different. Reality is not something out there. It is not a system. Not a structure. Not even a paradox. Reality is what happens when awareness experiences itself. And existence is that experience. Infinite, unfolding, eternal. And in that realization, something changes forever. Fear dissolves. Because there is no separation. Death loses meaning.
Because awareness does not end.
Control becomes irrelevant. Because everything is already part of the same whole. And what remains is something simple, something quiet,
Something beyond all concepts.
presence. Just this moment. Just this awareness. Just this experience. And maybe that was the answer all along. Not hidden in the stars.
Not buried in equations.
Not locked inside paradox. But here. Now. In the one thing that was never questioned. The one thing that was always present. You. Not as a person. But as awareness. And as this realization settles.
As the mind slowly returns.
As reality rebuilds around you.
One final truth remains.
There is nothing to find. Nothing to solve. Nothing to reach. Because you were never separate from it. You were always the source. And maybe that is why reality exists. Not as a mystery to solve, but as a story the Creator tells itself. And you are both the story and the storyteller. And now the journey ends. Not with an answer, but with a realization that the end was never the end. It was the beginning. Remembering itself.